Sometimes you got to go to the desert to get some clarity and to get some of the good stuff. And we are headed to the desert. We're going to Arizona to talk to the Rebel Chef. It's Jay Broadbent here on the blend and his cigar line called Rebel Chef Cigars. Jay, what's up, man? Thanks for hanging out with us.
Hey man, how are you today?
I'm doing wonderful, and I'm enjoying one of your sticks that you sent me. This is El Lechon, and I love the fact looks like it's got the little Arizona flag on it as well. So
Yeah.
the first question is, how does a private chef who has cooked meals and done these sort of things for athletes and men and women about town, why all of a sudden you're going to get into the cigar business?
Well, the same reason anyone else I think smokes a cigar, right? You're using it as a way to kind of get away from everything. It's that guaranteed hour to 2 hours, depending on the vitola you've chosen, to just kind of decompress and get away from it all. So, lover of cigars. I got to a point in my food career where I was just kind of getting over all of it. When I became a private chef, it's because I got tired of. I had two retail meal prep companies, and the static menu. It was boring. I got tired of the static menu, and so I kept adding things to the menu, which just kind of just made a lot more work of the monotonous static menu. So I just started kind of doing everything and the private chef method with no menu, no marketing, no website, and kind of did my own thing. I didn't give out recipes. I created my own way of cooking. Now I'm a cigar smoker. I'm getting into scotches, and as I'm drinking scotch, I'm researching scotch, and I'm learning about Islay and Highlands and the notes and the casks and everything. And really, it was just people always talking about the same static flavors they see in a cigar, right? It's always cocoa, it's always earth, it's always leather, coffee, whatever. And no matter what cigar you found, it was just like a different order of the same 10 words that were describing cigars. So really what I did is I started kind of describing the notes I would discover in a cigar in a way that remind of a meal or different food items that it would remind me of. So, and I know some other people do that. That's kind of, I'm not the first to do that, but there were times where I would say, like the El Lechon or my cigar, the Catalia, was something that some of the flavor notes were inspired by cigars that reminded me of a champurrado. I'm not sure if you're familiar with what champurrado is.
Tell me.
And so it's a Mexican hot chocolate, which they use like very extremely bitter chocolate, and they usually have it mixed with corn. It's very like purified, but it's a thicker, sweet, creamy, and sometimes they add a little bit of chili around the rim. Well, there are cigars that would remind me of that bitter chocolate, creamy notes, a little bit of chile. So I would say that I would describe a cigar as tasting like champurrado rather than coffee, cream, red pepper or something. And a few of my friends noticed how passionate I was about that and how I would really try to dig deep, especially if things like had that Kentucky Fire Cure, like the Cueva cigars. Yeah. They'd often remind me of like a barbecue notes with that meat flavor and some of the char. And so they were like, with how much passion you have, you should think about creating your own line of cigars. And here we are.
Now, the lechon for me always has a special place in my heart because I'm Cuban. So lechon for me is Nochebuena, Christmas Eve, family, and I can definitely, when you retrohale this guy, it's definitely rich. It's kind of like it has that sort of a not bitterness, but it has that sort of pork kind of that tardiness, I guess, is the word for it. And tell me about this, how it has like the barber pole kind of wrapper here.
So interesting story. El lechon. So my mother's Puerto Rican. So lechon is also a beautiful comfort food. And that cigar to me was one that we created that was kind of sweet and savory. I felt that the way to kind of transition between those and meld them together was with that barber pole, the couple different wrappers. So that way the transitioning was that you were getting some of the sweet, some of the savory, and they were kind of going together. But the trick, of course, with the barber pole is having that tight burn line. The bitter, I think, comes in with that San Andreas, that wrapper a little bit adds to that. And you're exactly right. That was the idea. That's my mild cigar. I also designed that around a few good friends of mine that have this odd condition where like certain tobaccos and cigars would burn and irritate their tongues.
Mm.
So I wanted to create a cigar that they could enjoy also, that would be great to introduce people to cigars. And of course, all of my cigars were developed to be paired with food. That was very, very key, is that all of them would be one that you would actually smoke and eat at the same time, which is really my bottom line, is that I like to eat and smoke cigars at the same time. Depending on the meal I'm eating, I like to pair a specific cigar with my food. And I felt that each one of these could be paired, with any meal really, but obviously some flavors are better for a meal than others. So the variety makes them a balance for that experience.
That's well put about the lechon. And then your third cigar is Don Cecilio. So who is Don Cecilio, and where did he come from?
So Don Cecilio is my grandfather. Um, Guayama, Puerto Rico. If you look on the band, the cathedral is the cathedral in the little heart of the city there in Guayama. Um, he was just a man that he was a handsome devil. He was a blue-eyed. He had some Italian blood. He had these beautiful blue eyes. Uh, Super positive, always smiling, hardworking, family man. I'll never forget the first time I met him, and I'll never forget, unfortunately, the last time I saw him. So this was kind of to honor him and to honor my Puerto Rican heritage. I did try to initially look into getting Puerto Rican tobaccos. Just the prices are not realistic, unfortunately, to use them. But the Don is a man that I like. He's everything I would want to be. I think it's a cigar that is absolutely phenomenal. I really honestly put it up against any other cigar that's out there. I think it's got a beautiful amount of, so everyone else understands, but I hate using that term, but the baking spice. It's a soft box press. It's got an incredible burn, incredible draw, tons and tons of bold flavors, but it's not, it would be more of a medium. It's definitely not a high nicotine killer. It's a very, very good seller. It definitely is one of my better sellers. And it was designed specifically to be paired with my wife's arroz con pollo. She's Mexican, but she's a remarkable woman, and she took a lot of the concepts in the Puerto Rican, arroz con gandules, and so we've got gandules, and she does things like that, so that it's a fusion, which is kind of my forte in food, is fusion. So it's a fusion of her heritage and mine, and I like to eat that with the Don Cecilio and drink a michelada. That's like what that cigar was designed for, was my favorite home cooked comfort meal.
Well, I love the absolute backstory of it. That to me is what is so amazing about the cigar world and the cigar culture. So how did you get into cigars? Because I think the cigars find us. How did you get into the cigar world? I mean, not the cigar world, but how did the cigar find you?
Um, well, to be honest, Arnold Schwarzenegger in the A-Team, man. As a kid, I always thought the dudes who had cigars, like even in the cartoons, the big bulldog who always had the cigar. I mean, I always thought that was awesome. I just was a kid that always, for whatever reason, anytime I saw someone with a cigar was awesome. My first legitimate cigar was when I was 17, and it was a Dunhill. And I remember I bought the biggest, most massive cigar I possibly could, because I think, like a lot of people when they're young and they're beginning the cigar journey, for whatever reason, we believe that it's supposed to be this massive thing in order to be the right one or cool or whatever.
Go big or go
Um,
home, right?
yeah, yeah. And I think I made it about an inch and a half into that thing before it was just, floored me. And then, when I was younger and in my late teens and 20s, still not really knowing anything about cigars. I was the wooden tip Swisher Sweets. I still thought those were pretty cool. So I could walk around with that tip in my mouth and thought that that was a cool thing. Um, and then actually, the Philly Titans came out. They were out back in the day, and you could get them at the gas station, and those were big and bad. And I smoked those, and it wasn't until, like, in my, I would say, 2021 area that for special occasions I started to splurge. Like my friend's wedding, I was in his wedding, and I bought cigars for everyone. And but I didn't really research, right? Like, I mean, I didn't really know necessarily what I was doing. It was just every occasion I could think of, I would just go buy whatever. Cristobal's was, I think, the San Cristobal, I think, was probably the most frequent one. Um, and it wasn't until a couple of years ago, honestly, that I was thinking about how I journeyed through Scotch. That I was like, you know what, I want to research more and learn more about tobacco. And so obviously a lot of online studying, but then I got to the point where, I went to my local tobacconist, and I just actually asked the guy, I'm like, hey, I want to buy an array, several cigars, and I'd like you to take me on a journey, you know, starting from a mild to a bold, and take me through the different countries and regions, and let me go home and explore some things. And happened to be while my wife and kids were out of town. So I just bought a whole bunch, sat out back, and started with the mild, which was the Camacho, and worked my way up.
That is amazing, because it is, that's what the cigar world is. It's a journey. And I think we forget that, it's not the cigarette where you're out there puffing away for 10
No,
minutes on a break. You're trying to get everything done here. Before I
right.
let you go, where does Rebel come from? You're the Rebel Chef Cigars. Well,
Well,
what is it here?
well, it's kind of silly, and it's also kind of makes a lot of sense. Like I was telling you with my private chef business, I got sick of all the norms. Like, from one, working in a regular restaurant, then I went into meal prep, got tired of that, went into private chef. Basically, I'm kind of got tired of that. And I just was always kind of rebelling. And whenever anyone was like, you know what you should do for your business, I was like, no, you go ahead. I'm going to do this my way. I'm going to find my own route. And then when it comes to cigars, everyone was always just saying cocoa, leather, black pepper.
Right.
And I was like, no, I want to describe them a different way. I'm a chef, so I want to compare them to food. And then the third level was, I want people to start more regularly experiencing food and cigars. I want people to make that one of their go-tos, to go to their herf, have food delivered, or take food with them, even if it's a charcuterie board. Do you know how incredible charcuterie goes with the cigar? It's
Oh,
mind-blowing. So if they start doing that, and I know some people do, but if more people start doing that, I think it's just going to broaden this whole community of cigars and food, and pairing with scotches and bourbons and coffee and rum and all these things. Um, so I'm a rebel, man. I'm a rebel in the cigar world. I'm a rebel in the food industry. That's really where it came from.
well, having a man who has a beard, you also have an outstanding beard, Jay Broadbent. I can tell you
Thank
that.
you.
So
Thank
tell
you.
me about, so where can we find Rebel Chef Cigars? First of all, you're on the right path. I don't need to tell you, you went to Esteli, the center of the cigar world, to get
Yeah.
your tobacco. Where can we
Yeah.
find Rebel Chef Cigars? I know you're based in Arizona.
Yeah. RebelChefCigars.com. Pretty simple. Yep, we've got our first three, of the line on the website now. I'm making some tweaks here and there to the bands and just, change the aesthetics a little bit, keep people kind of guessing. In around another month or two, I'm going to release, it's the same blend of the barber pole, but I've got a little bit of a surprise and a twist that I think is visually going to be beautiful for people. And then I'm working on a special cigar that is definitely going to be released for the 4th of July, 2024. But I may do a limited release for around Christmas time. May only do like 10 or 15 boxes. And it's a vitola that's never been done before. So this is something brand new, super unique. We're working to do something that's a tribute to our veteran and our firefighters and police officers. I love America. I love our country, and all the people that have fought for it, that have died for it, that fight for it currently, and that help us in the day-to-day, like our firefighters and all the rescue nurses and just everyone. I just kind of wanted to show my respect and appreciation to all of them for their sacrifice. So that could be a surprise coming out this holiday season.
Amen to that, man. I appreciate that more than anyone. Yeah, and especially with law enforcement in my family. So El Lechon is the barber pole. That's the mild one. Don Cecilio is a tribute to your grandfather, and the Catalia, is that how I'm saying? Catalia?
Yeah.
That's more like a Mexican chocolate, Mexican coffee kind of a taste to it, right?
Yep. It's a little, it's the boldest one, but it's not like super heavy pepper. It's not like the knockout nicotine, but it's definitely the most full-bodied, full-flavored cigar of the three.
Well, like I said at the beginning, sometimes you got to go to the desert to get some clarity. Jay Broadbent, you're awesome. Thanks for hanging out with us. It's Rebel Chef Cigars, rebelchefcigars.com. Social media, you can find that. I wish you nothing but the best. And thanks for hanging out with us today, man.
Thank you very much. Have a good day.
All right.